Shabbat Shalom, everyone, and welcome to Something to Pray About with Ayaba. And I just want to start with the scripture coming from Psalm chapter 139, verses 13 and 14. And it reads as follows: For you have possessed my mind, you have covered me in my mother's womb. I will praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvelous are your works, and that my soul knows right well. You are fearfully and wonderfully made by Yah. How do you see yourself? Do you see yourself the way the Most High Yah sees you? As a person who is fearfully and wonderfully made by Him? You got to ask yourself that question. And at times I ask myself that question as well. I want to share just a little bit of my own experiences with you, a recent one to be exact. I went into the department store lately looking for a product that I had been using, a product line that I had been using since I was in high school, literally since the 10th grade. And I remember when I moved from up north, from Philadelphia to where I live now down south, that I don't know, I just had sinus issues that, got increasingly worse over time. And around my eyes, they just got darker and darker. And if I'm not feeling well, if I'm tired, the area around my eyes, they get darker. They get darker. And I would have people say to me, oh, you look like somebody punched you in the eye. You look like a raccoon, things of that nature. So I'm in my cosmetology class because I went through my cosmetology training, my initial cosmetology training. I am a cosmetologist, have been for 33 years, while I was in high school. And I had one of my classmates who was also the same shade as me. Okay. And she wore a lot of makeup. So she got makeup all over the place. She wore a lot of makeup. So she said, let me show you how to wear makeup. Let me show you how to wear makeup. And, so I started wearing foundation just to cover those dark areas around my eyes. And I didn't go the other way because you got this big thing now, which actually has been going on for a long, long time, where people are lightening their skin. I just found, a concealer or a foundation really that matched my skin tone. I've never even thought about, trying to get something that was lighter than what I am, or even darker than what I am. I was just trying to match the skin tone that I already am. That's what I was trying to do. And that's what I have been doing. So, so it was fashion fair. That's what it's called. Some of you sisters out there may have used it or may still use it. I don't know. But fashion fair was one of the main product lines that have been used by women of color. And they had all the shades and all of that. And they had something called Perfect Finish. It's a foundation. They have it in concealer and the foundation. And I found one. People didn't even know I was wearing makeup because it fit the color of my skin. And I was really glad about that because I didn't want to look like somebody else. I wanted to look like me. I wanted to look like me. But what I dealt with was, if I didn't have on, the foundation or the concealer or whatever, and people saw the flaw. What happens when people see your flaws? And there are times where people saw my flaw that is around my eyes. And I have to admit that it got me. It got me to hear that the statements of you look like somebody punched you in your eye, or you look like a raccoon. That got me. That really, really did. And you know, I would go home on some days thinking, looking in the mirror and just saying, oh, I wish I can get this, or I wish I can do something to my, for my eyes, for them to get better, you know. And I found myself just saying, this is as far as I'm going to go. I'm going to wear this foundation, I'm going to wear this concealer, and that's it. And I'm glad that I never ever really thought about, lightening my skin with, lightening creams and things of that nature. It was just about covering the flaw that people saw. But even though the flaw that people saw was covered, it still made me think about myself in a way that was not good for a very long time. You wouldn't catch me outside without that foundation on or that concealer. And as I got older and everything, I just couldn't stand to wear it in the summer, like full coverage as they call it. And because it just made me feel like hot. In the wintertime it was fine, but in the summertime it wasn't. It just made my face feel hot. So I started just wearing it around my eyes, around the part where, there was the flaw. So fast forward to a couple of weeks ago, I went back into the mall to find, the product that I've been using since high school, since the 10th grade. And they've been having problems getting this product in for the past 5 years. And I was like, oh my gosh, I got to get this product. I got to get this product. So I went one more time to get the product. And they, the what they had left was all they had left. They're not going to order anymore. They're discontinuing the line. So I figured that the last time I had went in there. And so you have all of these other product lines for makeup. And this has been a problem for our women of our community, finding products for us, for people who look like us, for women who look like us, especially as the skin tones are, more dark. They don't have that. In some product lines, they don't even have, foundations or concealers that go past a certain shade. And so, if you're dark skinned, you're left out. And so it was a woman that pulled me over to her cosmetic counter, and she was Venezuelan or something like that. And she sat me down in her at her counter, and I didn't even know which product line I was at first, but it was Christian Dior. I didn't even know that they had a makeup line. Very expensive, very, very expensive. And so she didn't realize that I was a cosmetologist and I know about makeup and I know about hair. And she was, so she came over and she said, oh, I said, do you sell fashion fair? And she said, oh, yes, we sell it over here, but this is all we have left. And she said, they're discontinuing the line. She said, come over here. And I came over being polite. I sat down. I sat down and she said, first, tell me what you do for your skin. Tell me the products that you use on your face. And I didn't have full coverage on my face. I had just the concealer, just a foundation around my eyes. That was it. The rest of what she saw, like what you see right now, is me. It's my skin. Okay. And she said, tell me what you, I said, well, I use Fashion Fair as far as the product line. She said, really? She said, tell me what you do to get your skin to look like that. I said, water, lots of water, you know, lots of water. And so she was like, wow, you know, and she said, you know, sat down and she said, well, what are you looking for? And I said, well, I get a foundation and, and she said, well, we have foundation over here and let me show you and let me make you up and this, that, and the other. So she found a foundation. It was great. It matched my skin tone and all of this, but it was like almost three times as much as what I was already paying. And so she said she didn't realize that I had on some coverage. And she goes, oh, I'm going to tell you. I said, don't take it off. And she said, you have on makeup? I said, yes, I do. And she said, really? I said, yes, I do. I said, yes, I do. And so what I noticed with her was that when she didn't realize that I had on makeup or that my skin, that where the makeup wasn't there, she began to talk about my eyebrows and she started trying to find other things to basically make me feel bad about myself so that I would want to buy her product. And I recognized what she was trying to do, and I didn't like it because I knew that aside from the flaw that I had been concealing all these years, which was the darkness around my eyes, I know that I'm fine. I know that I'm fine. I know that I am fearfully and wonderfully made. And I told her, I said, to be honest, I wouldn't wear any makeup at all if I didn't have the darkness around my eyes. And I've told people this before in the past, and she said, really? Do you have darkness around your eyes? And I said, yes, I do. And she had to look very, very close. She said, oh, I see it now. She said, well, you should get this and you should get that. And I said, I'm fine. I said, I'm fine. She said, well, you should let me do your eyebrows. You should let me do this. And I said, I'm fine. And so I could get up out of her chair. I said, tell me how much these products cost. I said, thank you very much. I said, you did an excellent job. And I went about my way. But what it reminded me of that day as I was sitting in her chair was how so many of us have been treated over the years, basically being picked apart by the mouths and the words of others, making us feel like we are not fearfully and wonderfully made. And I recognized why I wore and continue to wear that concealer around my eyes because of the words of the people that I've come across in my lifetime that made me feel like I wasn't fearfully and wonderfully made. As I've grown older or more seasoned, as I like to put it, I really have become more comfortable in my skin. I wasn't always, when I was younger, I was teased for my height, for my weight, because I was very, very thin. I wish I was that way now, you know, but for my teeth, um, you know, having an overbite, you know, all these different things that people used to say about me that I internalized over time. And it made me feel the opposite of being fearfully and wonderfully made. Yes, I'm a woman, but this happens to grown men and it happens to little boys as well as little girls. That the things that have been said to us when we were younger and to our men when they were younger and little boys has made a lasting impact here, that has made us feel that we are not fearfully and wonderfully made by Yah. Sometimes we've even said it about our own selves. There are times where people may have said about their own selves that they didn't like the color of their skin, or they didn't like their hair texture, or they didn't like the way they looked, and or they didn't like their weight, or they didn't like their shape, or whatever the case might be. And there's nothing wrong with fixing yourself up and personal hygiene and personal grooming. There's nothing wrong with that. But when it crosses the line where you are doing things to yourself that brings you so far away from the state of being fearfully and wonderfully made by Yah in your own mind, then it becomes a problem. I will always remember as a reminder of what happened with me that day at that makeup counter. It reminded me that this is what has been happening to us for so many years. That advertisers, on Madison Avenue have been finding ways to make people feel dissatisfied with themselves so that we will buy their products, so that we will feel less than. And we've got to understand why we're doing what we're doing to ourselves. I remember when I was thinking about, allowing the chemical relaxer to grow out of my hair, or when I decided to. And my husband said something very empowering to me when I was discussing it with him. My hair had been thinning out over time. It didn't happen overnight, but it happened over time to the point where I could see my scalp. And I remember lifting up my hair and seeing my scalp. And I remember just crying and just feeling embarrassed and all of that. And I was by myself when I was looking at it, and I was just like, oh my gosh, what in the world has happened? And it was a combination of things: the chemical relaxer, medication that I had been on, hormone change, premenopause. It was a combination of all those things that was going on. But the result was that my hair was not as thick and was not there like it was before. And I remember just feel the way that I felt in that moment. And, started contemplating and praying about, letting the relaxer go. And I thought, well, I'm not going to do as many relaxers. And then I'm going to do the relaxer stretch, as they call it. And then I finally, just let it go. But I talked to my husband about it, and he turned around and he looked at me and he said, whatever you decide to do, if you want to keep wearing your hair straight or you want to go back to being natural, he said, I'm going to love you either way. And I was in my inside, I was just like, wow, and it was it gave me, a freedom to move forward and letting some of these things go that was hurting, me physically, you know. And so I had already begun the process of transitioning away from chemically treating my hair. I had already started the transition, but, then I was full steam ahead because there are some people that are, thinking about making changes in their life to get back to who they really are and what they really look like, the natural them, the person that is fearfully and wonderfully made by Yah. And I remember when I did the big chop and cut the rest of the relaxed hair off, and I was just like, I felt free. I felt free. And I had to get used to it and everything. But I really started connecting back to being fearfully and wonderfully made by Yah. You almost forget what your natural hair looks like. 30 some years, 33 years of chemicals. But then I got back to what I used to look like. My hair has changed over the years, my natural hair. It's a lot softer than what it used to be, but it's back. It's back. And it began to grow back. And I'm so very thankful because there are, unfortunately, some of our women that have done so many different things to their bodies, whether it's their hair, whether it's their skin, or they've done things to their daughter's hair and things of that nature, that tragically the damage is there to the point where it's not, their hair can't grow back, or they've scarred their skin, with the products that they've used on their skin. And so I just give praise and worship to the Most High Yah that I had a boundary, at least with all of that, that even though I had a flaw that I concealed and still do, to some degree, that I know that who I am naturally is a woman who is fearfully and wonderfully made by Yah. If this has been an issue for you and you've been thinking about yourself, and this happens not only for women, but it happens for men too. Men go through this too, but it manifests itself in different ways than it does with women. And I have two sons, and I let them know that they're lovable, they're valuable, and they're worth it. And if you've been dealing with low self-esteem, low self-image, low self-worth, get before the Most High Yah in prayer. I've been really thinking about this too, and things that have even come out of my own mouth because we've been so indoctrinated by society that we begin to say things about our own selves and about other people, whether it's family members, friends, or people that we work with, and we've said derogatory things out of our mouths. And we don't even realize that we're feeding into that whole system of self-hatred and low self-esteem and low self-worth and low self-confidence in ourselves, in our children, in other people. And, I had to get before the Most High Yah and just ask him for forgiveness. for, participating in that whole system that is the tearing down of oneself. Participating in the system that brings you into a place where you see yourself as the opposite of being fearfully and wonderfully made by Yah. So I had to do that. And it's been a eye-opening experience of freedom for me, and the weight that has dropped off of my shoulders and my mind. And so I'm really, truly, the Most High Yah is bringing me back to really understanding that I am fearfully and wonderfully made by the Most High Yah. He gave me this skin tone. These teeth are mine. Okay, they're not anybody else's. I didn't buy them. All right. My hair, the way it shrinks up when it's wet, is mine. It's mine. And even the areas where they're not as thick as it used to be in the past, I know that I am still fearfully and wonderfully made by Yah. I want to speak life to each and every one of you who took the time out to watch this video. If you're going through these same things about how you see yourself, remember this. You're lovable, you're valuable, you're worth it, and you are fearfully and wonderfully made by Yah. Pray and ask Him to help you to renew your mind so that you can see yourself how the Most High Yah sees you. Yah bless each and every one of you. And with that, I will leave you with Shabbat Shalom.